Welcome to the Movie Spoiler Club, the channel where you can watch movie, television, and streaming series within minutes. Today we're going to spoil the movie Castaway, 2000. This movie story plot is about obsessively punctual FedEx executive Chuck Nolan, Tom Hanks, is en route to an assignment in Malaysia when his plane crashes over the Pacific Ocean during a storm. The sole survivor of the flight, Chuck washes ashore on a deserted island. When his efforts to sail away and contact help fail, Chuck learns how to survive on the island, where he remains for years, accompanied by only his handmade volleyball friend, Wilson. Will Chuck ever return to civilization and reunite with his loved ones? Castaway opens on an empty road surrounded by farms and dirt fields in the dead of winter. There isn't any traffic on the road beside one car far off in the distance. As the car speeds closer into view, it takes on the familiar shape of a white FedEx delivery truck. A package is delivered to some kind of business owner. Once delivered, we see another package that is handed off to a young boy. Excitedly, he bundles himself in a huge winter coat, hat, and gloves, then buries the package in his arms and races out the door. He runs down the icy sidewalk past dozens of people walking leisurely through the city. He runs all the way to the FedEx warehouse. There we hear the sounds of a man harping about time. The boy quietly approaches with the package and the man breaks the lecture to examine the package. The man cuts the tape sealing the package and opens it up to find a timer. The package was a timer tracking how long it took for the package to travel around the world. Over 87 hours. This displeases the man named Chuck. With only weeks until Christmas, his team simply needs to work faster. Time is money. Time ever fleeting. Therefore, they cannot afford to waste a minute. After handling a minor packaging emergency, Chuck makes a phone call home. No one answers, but Chuck doesn't seem concerned. In his message, he mentions that he is about to head to the airport. He arrives at his destination and is in search of a woman named Kelly. When he finds her in the copy room, she lights up when their eyes meet. They kiss and begin to dance to a song that only they can hear, even though Chuck just got back home. When his pager goes off in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, they both know it's time for him to go. The two sneaks off to review their calendars and make a promise that no matter what, Chuck comes home in time for New Year's Eve. Once in the parking lot, the two exchange Christmas gifts. Kelly gives Chuck her granddaddy's pocket watch. Inside the watch is a picture of herself, so that Chuck always has a piece of her in his pocket. He loves the gift and apologizes for the hand towels. He has to go. They kiss goodbye and he is off with the car keys. Kelly shouts after him, and when he returns, he hands her the keys in a tiny square box wrapped in delicate ribbon. He says here is one more gift, although it isn't quite the type of gift you exchange in a car. He asks that she keep it until they are both together on New Year's Eve. She blushes and carefully stows the box away. He smiles lovingly and jokes, "I'll be right back," as he hastily makes his way toward the plane. Once on the plane, it doesn't take long for Chuck to fall asleep. It isn't until the plane hits some turbulence that he is jostled awake. He groggily reaches for the pocket watch to check the time and slowly gets up to make conversation with the crew. The storm seems quite serious, but Chuck doesn't feel concerned. Chuck senses that things are under control and goes to the restroom. While he is washing his face, he notices the band-aid on his thumb from a previous accident. He goes to examine the cut, carefully peeling away the vinyl bandage, and then in an instant, there's an explosion. Chuck is being sucked through the plane. He is instructed to find an oxygen mask and buckle up. In the next moment, he is notified that everyone may have to ditch the plane, so he grabs an emergency inflatable raft. Lights flicker like static on a television screen while the plane plummets toward the ocean's surface. People are yelling that they need life jackets, and that's when Chuck realizes he needs one too. As he unbuckles himself, he carefully maneuvers toward the pocket watch that is flopping across the floor and a life jacket just across from the watch. Before he can blink, the cabin floods with water. Chuck manages to get out of the plane as it's being pulled under by the current. As he swims through, he releases the tab on the raft and it begins to inflate. The raft floats up toward the surface like a balloon in midair. The engine is whistling as it pulls in more water. Chuck turns to see and notices the raft is being sucked towards the fan. He struggles to paddle away, then suddenly it explodes, shooting off the raft. He climbs back onto the raft. The plane drowns in the waves as the flames flicker violently on the surface. Chuck lays down in the bottom of the raft alone in the dark, with nothing but the waves surrounding him. His raft travels through the night and lands on a massive rock formation. The jagged edges pop a section of the raft. Chuck climbs up the rock to try and see what's around him. The dark night sky makes it difficult, but there appears to be land nearby. In the morning, Chuck awakens on a sandy beach with a gentler tide nudging him in the back of his head. He crawls out of the raft and flops onto the sand. He begins to gather his bearings by searching through his pockets. His pager flooded with water, his pocket watch still ticking, and the picture of Kelly still secure inside. He clasps the watch in his hands as he stares at the horizon. Beside him, he can see packages washing up on the shore. He stands up to gather them as they pile on the sand. At first, he tries to call out to see if anyone can hear him, but there is no answer. He returns to the raft and drags it further up the beach. He creates a makeshift shelter and removes his soggy wool sweater that easily weighs 10 pounds. He can hear a noise, so he calls out again in hopes someone will answer, but still no luck. Next, Chuck decided to signal his distress in the sand. He draws out a large help sign in the golden sand for unsuspecting planes or rescue teams in the coming days to see. When night falls, sleep is a struggle. The odd and uncomfortable sounds from the forest behind him prevent him from getting any rest. In the morning, he finds that the tide has washed most of his signal away, but with plenty more packages. By day 2 on the island, Chuck is severely dehydrated and starving, so he tries to open coconut with a sharp rock. Also, he attempts to fish with a blunt stick he found on the beach, but he is unsuccessful. At night in the distance, he can see a ship. He grabs the flashlight he found from the corpse of the pilot that washed up on the shore and begins to signal SOS to the ship, but the light isn't strong enough. When the morning comes, he decides to take what is left of the raft and try to sail to the ship. The waves thrash harder with every roll, finally knocking him off the raft and slamming his leg into some coral. The rough current was a clear sign of a terrible storm to come. By the time Chuck returns to shore, the skies have grown dark, and the trees are whipping in the wind. The rain pours and Chuck is forced to find an alternative shelter. In the next few days on the island, Chuck opens the packages that washed up on the shore, learned to create fire, crack coconuts, and hunt for fish. He even made a friend, a volleyball whom he named Wilson. Wilson is Chuck's only companion on the island, and sometimes they get on each other's nerves. Wilson knows every detail about Chuck's trip, the plane crash, and the team that is still searching for any survivors. The two spend every day together, talking, plotting, and making the most of their day. Chuck is lonely, scared, and losing his sanity. Time slips away, and before you know it, 4 years drift by. Now, Chuck is a much more skillful fisherman, and he has lost quite a bit of weight. His hair is long and sun-bleached, with a wild beard to match. Pieces of the wreck continue to wash ashore still, and this time it's a piece of the plane's cabin. He inspects the debris closely. Inside the cave, Chuck has not lost track of his days. The months of the year are plotted on the walls and floor marked by the location of the sun. Chuck is talking to Wilson. He is eager and direct. He tells Wilson that they live and die by time. Time is all each other have. Time is running out. They must prepare. But for what? Chuck plots obsessively and refutes any doubts that Wilson casts in his direction about leaving the island. Chuck loses his temper one night after Wilson spews his pessimistic poison on Chuck's plans. Chuck literally kicks Wilson out of the cave. Wilson flies out of the cave into the dark. When Chuck realizes what terrible thing he has done, he races out in the night to find his friend. Wilson and Chuck return to the cave, where Chuck patches up Wilson's face. When the wind is ready, they sail. This time, Chuck's raft handles the waves much better than 4 years earlier. A gigantic wave threats to capsize them, but Chuck releases the sail, and it carries them over the wave swiftly. Once over the rolling tide, Chuck tirelessly paddles for hours, through the day and night, even in the pouring rain. A terrible storm rips the sail off the raft, but the two continue on their journey. Once peace returns to the ocean, Chuck is asleep. Wilson is losing his grip on his post and falls off into the water. Chuck still sleeping while Wilson drifts off with the current. When Chuck wakes up to find Wilson missing, he panics. He jumps off the raft in an effort to swim to his friend, but quickly realizes the boat is sailing away without both of them. He cries out, "I'm sorry, Wilson. I'm so sorry." He can't save his friend. He has to let him go. Chuck mourns the loss of his friend, while the raft floats aimlessly in the sea. A cruise ship rolls near the raft and finds Chuck, and Kelly is informed that Chuck has survived. 4 weeks later, we see Chuck as we were first introduced to him. He has a clean-shaven face, a short haircut, and he is wearing a suit. He is trying to adjust to normal life but can't seem to shake the lessons and experiences that being on the deserted island has taught him. He must come to terms with the fact that people held a funeral for him because they thought he had died. He had to accept that Kelly already moved on, married, and has a child. Kelly's husband introduces himself to Chuck and tries to explain that Kelly is having a difficult time and can't bear to see him today. Chuck seems confused because the whole time he was gone, He didn't forget about her. How could she? He arranges a cab and visits Kelly's home, where she greets him and they try to navigate their complicated relationship. Chuck tries to return the pocket watch, but she insists he keeps it. Then she takes him to the garage to show him that she kept their car this whole time. Chuck is delighted, and Kelly hands him the keys. They try to say goodbye because that's what they should do, but their eyes can't seem to blink. If they do, Chuck might wake up back on the island, and it really will just have been a dream. They kiss, and Chuck backs out of the driveway. Kelly chases after him. They embrace each other one last time, and for a moment, it would seem Kelly is willing to leave everything behind, but Chuck rationalizes that she must go back home, as much as it hurts for him or her to accept that her life doesn't include Chuck anymore. The next day, Chuck drives out on the dirt road with an old unopened FedEx package beside him. He tries to deliver it to its rightful address, but no one answers the door. He leaves it on the front porch and attaches a message that reads, "This package saved my life. Thanks, Chuck." He heads on down the road and stops to check his map. An old dirty pickup truck stops to check him out, and a woman tries to advise him on which road to take. She drives off, and Chuck wanders out to the middle of the road where he sees the same logo at the truck to be the same as the one on the package he just delivered. He stares in each direction at the intersection of these crossroads. He scratches his head as he thinks for a moment, and the scene cuts to credits. Movie trivia. Do you know that to make himself look like an average out-of-shape middle-aged man, Tom Hanks did not exercise and allowed himself to grow pudgy? Production was then halted for a year so he could lose 50 pounds and grow out his hair for his time spent on the deserted island. During this hiatus, Robert Zemeckis used the same crew to film movie What Lies Beneath, 2000. This movie gets the movie rating of 7.8 from IMDb, Tomatometer rating of 88 and audience score of 84 from Rotten Tomatoes. Thank you for watching, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments section, and hit the notification bell for the new movie spoiler video every week.